Hey, tweakers, it's the end of the month, which means I get to go over the tier list for Eternal Evolution for March 2023. I was kind of debating with myself, do I call it the tier list for March or do I call it the tier list for April? Because I'm putting it out at the end of the month. It is relevant for April, but really, at the end of the month is when everything changes. So I'm just going to leave it as a tier list for March 2023. So we're going to do it exactly the same way I have been doing it. I'm going to pull up my tier list that I made. This is my opinion. You're welcome to your own. But we're basically going to go over what's changed. Maybe characters that have moved positioning because the game has changed after March. It is in a completely different state than it was in February. So let's just dive in real quick. Let's just go straight to it. Where is it? There it is, right? Boom! Right there. Okay. Right there. We're going to start at the top because that's actually where a lot of changes are. So, tanks. This month, in March, we got Pandemonium, and we also got the rework of tanks, plus the tank commander, which makes it all work. So, last month I think I had Oysa and Oak up top, and I left this blank, and I put Zeta somewhere down here, because at the time, Zeta was absolutely crap. Now, they reworked her, and now she is actually very viable. So, I have Pandemonium as 1 and Zeta as 2. Both of them, well, they're not both A and B. I'd say Panda is a definite first in his class amongst the tanks. Why? Because his kit is what makes the tank team go, right? He supercharges any tank and specifically the team, any tank with a knockback. So Pandemonium is the best tank in the game, although I would say that's more for PvP. For PvE, Zeta is better. Now, they reworked Zeta. They reworked Pandemonium once, and they reworked Zeta twice. So Zeta, as she is now, is actually very, very, very tanky. And she is very useful in the Crimson Abyss. She can tank easily up to and including level 13. After that, 14 and 15, you do still need Muka, right? And then Oysa got a little bit of a buff. They gave her a little bit of more attack on her ultimate. They bumped up her attack numbers, but other than that, her and Oak, I would say, are next in line, basically due to the fact that they have knockdowns. Now, Queet was way over here where Hercules is last month. Now, Queet does have a knockdown as well, and as such, he's moved up a little bit, and that's because there is a tank team out there that can beat summoners that has Queet in it. But I can't make it work. It needs Guan Yu. Yeah, it's a pretty expensive team. So that being said, I moved Boar a little bit closer because the tanks in general got a little bit better. But in my opinion, in the tank class, it's Panda, Zeta. I give Oysa the edge because she's great on the summoner team. She has a lot of CC in her kit, and Oak is good, but not as good as Oysa, in my opinion. He's good because he's got a lot of basically survivability with that cheat death ability. And Langle, he's trash. Langle's still trash. You know, even though they fixed him, kind of. No, they tweaked his language on his kit. He's still trash. Healers. Not a lot's going on in the healer department in Eternal Evolution for March 2023. Basrani is still top dog, best in class for healers. And then Serena is number 2. Bada's number 3, strictly for being SSS and the third one. Really, I do use her on some PvP teams for Summit and Galactic Arena. But if I didn't have to, I probably wouldn't, even though they've tried to fix her at least 3 times. Loran, the only reason why he's this far up on this scale is because you are forced to use him as a free-to-play. If you're a free-to-play playing this game, you're probably not going to have Panda. You're probably not going to have Zeta for tanks. You can get Oysa, Oak, and Boar relatively quickly. I wouldn't worry too much about Hercules and Langle. I got to say that. I got to also provide the free-to-play experience. For healers, free to play, Laron, you are going to use, and you are going to use because you're probably not going to have Bada anytime soon. You're probably going to use Laron, Mazrani, and Serena. Mazrani, very, very, very easy to get because the game spoon feeds them to you. And Serena, also very, very, very easy to get. The game literally gives her to you right off the bat. Laron comes from Soulman. Now, the other character that we got this month, we got 3 of them actually, is, the Northeon. What do I say about the Northeon? Northeon is the linchpin for energy teams, much like Pandemonium is the linchpin of tank teams. Anpu is the linchpin of summoner teams. Leo is the linchpin of the Vanguard team, in my opinion. Ricky, kind of, you could say the same thing about Assassins, kind of, but not really. Now, Northeon is, he's everything. He's a PvP beast. He is a PvE beast. He, in my opinion, he shines the most in PvE. He just dominates content. For high level Twilight Lands, yes, you do need Leo, but Northeon, oh man, you almost only need 3 teams to get through stages 1 to 15 on Twilight Lands, and then I'm using Northeon on every boss in stage 16. He is that good. He is top 5, if not top 3. I would say it's Leo, Dan, and Northeon holding down top 3. He is that good. He is the best in class of AoE DPS in general. No questions asked. Luke and Ravenna, they've become more important with Northeon because Northeon gives them buff. He buffs their damage by giving them the ability to proc Thunder. So they are undisputed 2 and 3. Nowadays, I know in the past I've given Ravenna the edge. Given her more limited range, even though she does excel in places like Synth Spider in Guild Hunt and some of the holiday activities, I am now giving Luke the edge for his increased viability in PvP with Northeon as well. Luke is a top tier Twilight Lands character, especially under Northeon. He was good before Northeon, now he's even better. So these 3, 1, 2, and 3, no question, I am giving Luke the edge over Ravenna at this point in the game cycle. Now, it kind of drops off really quick from there. Now, Nagrama, he does still retain his spot as next on deck in the AoE DPS, mainly because for free to play, he is still just absolutely clutch in Sincero Marsh. He is the undisputed king of killing eggs. For that fact and for that fact alone, he is this high up on the list. Falvia and Kayn, while still good AoE DPS characters, they're a lot harder to get. My free-to-play account got Nagrama fairly quickly to Immortal, whereas I still only have my Falvia and my Kayn at Legendary. And Legendary at point where I'm trying to, at the content where I'm trying to clear, just ain't cutting it. So really, I still have not used them on my free-to-play account yet. They are good once you got them up there, but once you got them up there, you're probably going to have maybe some of these other Triple S characters. So because they're still okay, they're up here with Nagrama, but Nagrama definitely has the edge over Kayn and Falvia just because of, again, his niche role. He does do good damage, even though his ultimate is kind of a little bit wonky, and he is such a good egg killer in Sincero Marsh. Omar and Paluno, for free to play, you can use them. Omar can be used in Sincero, and you will get him quite easily. Paluno as well, you're going to get him quite easily, and you might use Paluno in the faction mines for Atlas characters because of the limited availability of Atlas characters at the start of the game. For those reasons, they are up here and not also in the trash category with Karma, Ornn, and Murphio. Karma, still trash. Ornn, still trash. Why is Murphio trash? Because he's so damn hard to get. He is actually fairly inaccessible. You can farm his shards in the Elite campaign. You can buy one of his copies from, I do believe it's the basic summon chip store, but you can't get him from advanced tickets. You can't. Let me just double check that, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. So you can get him right here. There's one copy there, right, for 120 chips, no less, not 85, which it should be. So you can get him there, but you cannot get him. Oh, never mind. I was wrong. You can get him there. All right. So that's really the only place here, basic chips, and elite campaign. Really, that's the only place you can get him. And he is slow to get. He's very, very slow to get, which is why he is grouped in with Karma, Ornn, and in the trash department. All right. So AoE DPS, Northeon is the best character hands down. Now, single target DPS, I do have to caveat that I know I do still have Prygor and Moriyami in here, more so because they're hunters, but they are technically AoE hunters. But I am still going to keep them in this classification because, in my opinion, they're not true AoE as well. But they kind of are, but they seem to share more similarities with hunters. In fact, that they are hunters. So I'm gonna loop them or group them down here as well. So single target DPS, in my opinion, hands down, Emma is still the queen. Although this Thursday, tomorrow, since you're seeing this on Wednesday, this might change because we're getting a new SSS hunter, and from the scuttlebutt behind the scenes, she is awesome, or she's going to be awesome. Until then, at least for all of March, and this is probably going to change in April, but Emma is still the undisputed queen of single target burst AoE. Azina is up here this high strictly because she boosts Emma, so she goes really well when paired with Emma. By herself, she can do okay damage. She's okay in some game modes where you need single target multi-hit DPS. But by herself, she doesn't hold a candle to Emma. Taylor, still fantastic. If you're free to play, Taylor is going to be your workhorse. He is still your workhorse. His uses that we were using him for back in February and January are still quite viable. Taylor at endgame is still used in Twilight Lands if you don't have, say, like Emma, Azina, and Prygor or something like that. But Taylor is also still used on the Turbine team for Turbine 3, 6, and 9 if you can keep them up, because that comp still puts out the highest damage. So Taylor is still useful and used at endgame. Now, Nautilus and Sorietta. Nautilus and Sorietta are basically two sides of the same coin. Now, they're both energy characters that are both multi-hit single target DPS. Even though I know Sorietta has a brief AoE skill, but for the most part, she is multi-hit single target damage. If you are using hunters for the Guild Hunt Whale boss, you're going to be using Emma, Azina, and Nautilus if you have them. But if you don't have Nautilus, since Nautilus is harder to get, you get him from Twilight Lands rewards, or if you spend Gene Hybrids, but I don't recommend that. You can slow farm him from Twilight Lands. If you don't have Nautilus, Sorietta fills the role that Nautilus leaves. But if you have Nautilus, he does edge out Sorietta. Sorietta, very, very easy to acquire for new players for free to play. Everyone should be able to get an immortal Sorietta, no problem, and Sorietta will still do work. Now, is Old John better than these? The reason why I have Old John this far back is because he doesn't have a clear-cut use case. You could really just not go for him. If you were around for the last Rise of Heroes event that was 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, technically, you should have an immortal Old John. I think he does have an interesting kit, but he doesn't really have a defined role, right? He's a hunter, cool, but he's also kind of an AoE hunter as well, like Prygor or Moriyami. He's got some, like I've already said, some interesting things in his kit, but he's not multi-target, which for the most part, when you want to be using your hunters, is for their not multi-target, multi-damage single-target abilities. And Old John is more of a spray and pray, right, with his shotgun. So which is why he's this far down. Bot Mark II. Bot Mark II is going to be a staple in any free-to-play friendly team or roster, especially if you're starting out. You're going to get him early. They're not going to spoon feed him to you. You're going to have to go out and get him, but he is available in many locations throughout the game. I do believe he is in the shop. Let me just look. I'm just looking behind the scenes here. He is in the Wasteland shop in the game. So yes, you can get his copies fairly easy. And he does have his defense down, which is really clutch early on. But you will drop him fairly quickly as you approach mid-game and then definitely on end-game. But since he's so good early game and he's so accessible, he does still have a place in any team or in any roster. Prygor Moriami. Now, I have moved Prygor Moriami up here, and now they're back here. So Prygor, you get from Twilight Lands. You can either pick as a reward Prygor copies or Nautilus copies. Prygor and Moriami are both AoE hunters. And Moriami you get from rewards in Summit Arena. Now, Prygor is going to be more plentiful. You're going to be able to get her to a more faster. Moriami is going to be a lot harder to get. So you can get 2 copies or more if you make it really, really, really high in Summit. You can get about 2 copies per Summit Arena. But that's if you also make Summit. So you can get 1 copy from just using the currency in the reward shop. And then you can get another one if you get the medals if you make it to the Summer Round. So I guess really you can only really get 1 copy of Moriami every month if you aren't making it to the Summer Round. And even at that, you're only getting 2, and she's really, really, really slow. Now, I do like Prygor and Moriami's kits. I think that since Prygor has and they're both attack speed characters, Prygor more than Moriami. I think Prygor, Emma, like there'd be a really killer team with Prygor, this new hunter, Emma, and Azina, because Azina boosts the attack speed of character in the same row by quite a bit. So you usually want to pair her with Emma. Prygor also shares the attack speed of the same row ally as well, making that quartet of hunters with the new one, since the new one's going to rely on attack speed, quite maybe, possibly, theoretically, quite powerful. So Prygor might move up in relevance and in this tier next month. We'll see. Xander is trash. He's not as trash as Karma, which is why he's under Ornn, but he is trash. Yeah, very, very much trash. The game is going to give you Taylor, Bot Mark II, and Sorietta. You have no reason to use Xander in anything that requires a multi-hit single target fight. You may use him in the Atlas faction mines early, but he's not good. He doesn't put out the damage. He's not very accessible. He is accessible. He's not like as accessible as say like a Taylor. He's just doesn't put out the numbers. He's just not good, right? He's just not good. Even though he is a hunter, he's a hunter. So that is the single target DPS. Although I should probably call this multi-target or multi-hit single target. It's basically the hunters and the hunter-like characters, right? They're not true AoE. Come to think of it, Northion's not true AoE as well, but he does have a lot of AoE in his kit. So I am putting him at AoE damage because with Rez he goes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again doing AoE. So yeah, kind of a hybrid, but whatever. So melee, as you know, I like to group the assassins with the vanguards since they're all melee. And if I was going to break it out between assassins and vanguards, it'd be pretty small columns. It'd be pretty small groupings. And if I wanted to put vanguards with tanks, I don't think that's a fair comparison anymore, given the more clear demarcation of tank versus Vanguard characters. Now, I know Leo and Crete do tanking, tanking, but they're not true tanks. They're more hybrid DPS melee characters, so hence they're in the melee. And I'm not saying melee, even though I know you can say melee. I like saying melee. Sorry, get over it. And the top dog is still Leo. Now, Leo is harder to get now that his banners isn't probably going to be coming back for a while. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he is the undisputed champion of the melee team, strictly because you're going to use him everywhere, and he is going to excel where you use him. He is the best frontline tank type character, but he will also deal a butt ton of damage. So he is a damage dealer and a tank. So you're going to need him if you want to get through high level Twilight Lands, which is becoming increasingly important. That's content you need to clear. So as such, you need a Leo. I recommend going for Leo quite early, even if you have to pick up a 120 chip copy and using genes on him. I do recommend that. Really, you should focus on the characters that the game gives you early, namely Crete, Mazrani, Emma, right? You're going to be able to get high evolved copies of those characters, or high evolved quality of those characters from the game in the first 5 weeks. But after that, it behooves you, and it behooves your account, to go for a Leo. After that, Rickert and Bailey really should be put together, because Rickert relies on other assassins, namely their crit rate, to make him good, right? And Bailey Hudson's the only other triple S, and for the most part, you're probably going to be running these two. So if you got 80% crit rate on your Bailey Hudson, you're going to steal 40 of that. So you're going to have 40%. If you put about 35 on your Rickert, you're going to have around, I don't know, 75 to 80% crit rate, which is what you want. For every assassin that you pair with Rickert, he's going to do more damage. So Rickert is the best of the assassins, in my opinion, but he excels when you do have Bailey. Bailey used to take the number 2 spot for melee characters, but Rickert kind of shoved him over a little bit, even though they are quite similar in importance. I do give Rickert the edge and give him the number 2. Bailey the number 3. Clear number 3. Crete, I give Crete clear number 4, because you should, like, a Vanguard team, in my opinion, wants Crete still, right? Even though we have, Na Fang, Leo, Guan Yu. Artis sucks now. They killed Artis. I think Crete's still important because he still excels at what he does. He has never changed. He's just been outshined. And the game's going to give you a high-developed Crete early on, which is why he has ranks so high in this tier list under melee. Now, Na Feng is an elite. What he does is he rounds out the Vanguard team and he buffs Leo. That's pretty much what he does. He doesn't really do anything else except make Leo hit harder. So since the Vanguard team requires 3, and he buffs the best one, that's why Na Feng ranks where he ranks. Now, I do put Randall and Rakana next, because they're the assassins that you're most likely going to have if you're free to play, and they're the ones you're going to have early on, regardless if you're free to play or pay to win. And they do they do have end game viability. For early whale bosses, going into late stage whale bosses, depending on how good your roster is, you're going to take in Northeon, Rickert, Bailey, Randall, and Rakana. So they do still have end game uses and functionalities. They're just there to buff Rickert, right? But you still need them, and you need them built with high crit rate to buff Rickert, right? So more assassins means more soul swords, means Rickert hits harder. So that's why they're where they are. Guan Yu, they tried to give him a rework. He does have a somewhat limited role on a tank team if you have Zeta and Pandemonium. But other than that, he's still kind of poo-poo. He's still kind of poo-poo, unfortunately. He looks real cool. I wanted him to be cool. He just doesn't bring the necessary tools to the table to make him rank higher on this list. Artists, oh boy, they did him so bad. They reworked him to give him a displacement ability, but they took away what made him good. He basically was able to supercharge teams in the whale and in the turbine in bosses in Guild Hunt under 50% to make us basically he supercharged those teams and you got higher damage numbers. Plus he had a defense down debuff that he put out, which they took away, and they also took away his ability to supercharge teams when the boss was under 50% health. So as such, I feel for free to play because Artis was my best tank for a long time on my free to play account. But now he's basically kind of like Guan Yu. He's a damage dealing vanguard that can't tank. Right? Pretty much. He's just a lower quality than Guan Yu. So as such, Artis is way down here now. I'm still loath to put him as trash because of how much you're going to use him in the early game, especially if you're free to play. But he is pretty much trash. Support. We don't have a whole lot of support, as always. Nothing has changed here. Rez is become more valuable with the introduction of Northion because Rez is the supercharged battery for Northion in almost all content where you want to run Northion. Right? Northion plus Rez equals win. So Rez has become far more important this last month with the addition of Northion because of what he can do for him. Anaruda, now people are starting to get Anaruda to Immortal, and Anaruda does have some cool things you can do with him. You can pair him in a team with Northion, Leo, and Daniel, and you can do odd things. He's decent. He's just hard to get, right? Because he has a very, very low drop rate from advanced summons. And you really do need him at X30 to make him really super powered. So he is decent. He's a decent character. But doesn't do, you're not going to use him as much as Rez. And he's not going to do what Rez can do. And I don't use him. So I did put him up here. Maybe I should put him like there, right? Whoa, this is probably better. And then Hypnos is trash. I'm sorry, he's trash. You're not going to use him. He used to have some quirky things you could do with him, but no, he's trash now. Not going to talk about him. Use him for food. Xander, Murphy, all these characters here, I would say maybe not Hercules and Artis, but all these 5 right here, or 6, you can use as food. Go ahead, do it. Use them. You're not going to, unless, no. Yeah, use them for food. Summons. Okay. Summons is one of the only tiers. In fact, it is the only type or class where I can say they're all good. They're all really good characters. You're going to use all of them. All of them have endgame uses. Daniel is by far the best because although, I want to put Ampu higher, but the reason why Daniel wins is because you do not use Ampu in Guild Hunt. Not if you want to put out the best damage possible. He is not on the Turbine team. He used to be on the Whale team with the Assassins. But then they fixed his bug. And now you do still have to use him in Crimson Abyss. You do still have to use him to get the new gear sets in the Reaper Deca boss in Katosian Triangle. But you're going to use Daniel more, which is why Daniel gets the top spot for summoners. And plus, if you have Ampu but you don't have Servali, his use case drops. If you have both of them, then you're going to win the game. Right? If you have Daniel, Ampu, and Servali, you win the game because the game is based around summoners. If you don't have Servali, then you're going to struggle a little bit more. Ampu is going to be a little bit less useful. but he still can be used. So those two are definitely the 2 and 3, I would say. Servali, if you don't have Ampu, Servali will be down here. Right? So Servali is only good when you have Ampu. But because of the things that she does to the summoner team, I am still giving her the number 3 spot. And then these 4 I'm putting in equivalence. I'm going to say they're all useful to the same degree. Now, Skewer and Hattie, you're going to use in Guild Hunt with Senway, with Kalaza. You're not going to use her, though, in Crimson Abyss. You're not going to use... if you want to beat the highest tiers of Crimson Abyss, you're not going to use any of these. But you are going to use Kalaza, Senway, and Skewer in the Guild Hunt Turbine boss. So they're very useful. Skewer is still a good character. Senway's good. Kalaza's gotten better, actually, in my opinion. And then Muka. Muka used to be down around here, but now Muka is pretty much required if you want to beat stages 14 and 15 of Crimson Abyss. It's difficult, but it can be done. And then Muka is also useful now with the introduction of the Deca Reaper boss in Katosian Triangle. You really do need Muka. So Muka has his uses as well. They're all of them have their uses. Of course, Daniel's number 1, Ampu's 2, Servali's 3. But I couldn't really give, my heart wants me to put Skewer and Hattie ahead of the other 3, but really I think that I use the other 3 just as much. So I would say that they're all good, but this is where they fall in importance, which they're all good, but Daniel's number 1. So where's my mouse? There it is. Let's move my head back down to the bottom. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the tier list, the best characters in the game for each class in Eternal Evolution for March of 2023. This is going to be somewhat viable for April as well, but April might switch things up depending on what we get in game. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you disagree with me, say so in the comments. We can chat about it. If you agree with me, put, I don't know, horseshoe in the comments so I know you made it to the end of the video. Any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the description or put them in the comments and we will talk. I respond to every single comment on all of my videos. So with that said, till next time, guys, see you in the next one. Cheers, peace, bye-bye.